Good day. My name is Tim Chelpaty. I'm the president of Veterans Office Solutions. Remember, our slogan at VOS is with a hand up, not the hand out. We're one-stop shopping for their physical and mental needs. We pay a livable wage, more than minimum wage, and we help veterans transition from military life to civilian life. On the prior segment, we addressed the issue of disabled American veterans. Today's topic is VA disability compensation. Our guest is Kevin Dasings. He's the district commander for number 4 in southern New Mexico. Also, he's the director of veteran benefits at Veterans Office Solutions. Good day to you, Mr. Dasings.
Good day.
And I would like to ask, how does one apply for VA disability benefits?
Well, that's been a good question for years, and it's been very convoluted. But what it does is, let's say you're an active soldier. The only way you're going to apply for disability and get it is you have to be on active duty. So you're on active duty, you know something's messed up. Let's say you busted your kneecap during your course of your duty in the military, and they fixed it and all this. 180 days to 90 days prior to getting out of the military, if it's retirement, if it's just getting out, ETSing or whatever, you go down, you can apply with the VA. There's VA locations on several military bases across the country. They have built their own little buildings there, offices, and even have medical groups there to examine you. So you go over there 90 days prior to 180 days and say, look, my knee was busted while I was in the military, and I think I should get disability for it because it doesn't work right. They can apply for it there. And by the time you get out, this is all in theory, but by the time you get out, you should have a paycheck there for your first month's disability, if you're approved for it. Well, that's good in theory. Problem is, I have seen people that have applied a whole year out, and they have been 2-3 years, still haven't got their disability. They either get lost in the system, they go into the wrong office, or the VA said yes, but no later on.
Now, Mr. Dasings, you mentioned that sometimes there are long periods of time prior to getting their disability. How do you yourself assist people to speed up the process?
What we do is we're at the DAV, and we're veteran service officers, and we're trained every year and certified to be veteran service officers. So we're up to date on everything. What happens is we're in our office, and then comes the veteran. And he's usually the one that is an older veteran. This thing with the VA being on a military basis has only been less than 5 years. So we don't see them that much. Well, we see the older veterans. And we'll get them from Vietnam, Korea. We even got World War II ones that have come in and finally said, look, I need to apply for my disability. So when they come into the office, they usually tell us, well, in Vietnam, I broke my arm. Okay, very good. We're going to put you in for a disability. And we always ask them first, have you ever applied before? No. Do you have a lawyer working for you? No. Okay. Then we'll start the paperwork on them. And we'll tell them, is this your first, if it's your first time, let's put down your arm. We'll put down your arm, broken in Vietnam, fell off the truck, whatever, and we'll put down their paper. But what I always do is tell them, if this is your first time to apply for disability, put everything you ever got happen to you in the military. I tell them, and I always kid around and say, put down hangnail, dandruff, broken arm, sprained foot, bullet in the back, whatever. Put everything down. And most of them look at me like, well, just my arm hurts right now. I said, right, but you have these other problems, we need to apply for them too. Because most veterans don't realize the first time you come up and put in disability, and it's commonplace with most veterans, they'll go like, well, my arm is hurting. Okay, and that's the sole thing I'm going to worry about, my arm. So they go in, my arm's hurting, sends it into the VAB benefits. They come back, with parents says, yep, you got 10% for your arm. Okay. And they're happy. Then they go, well, a couple months later, I forgot about my knee. I broke my knee too. Okay, come back in. That's the problem there. Because the second time you go in, you deal with Veterans Affairs mathematics. And what that does is the first time you come in and your arm was busted and they gave you 10%. Okay. Second time you come in, now you're claiming something different like your leg. Okay, that could be a 10% or two. But with VA mathematics, they cut it in half. So you get 5%. So whenever you come in, and then if you're third time you come in, because people come in third time and fourth time too, you're going to have to get like something worth 50% to just get 10% any more disability. So always tell them, come in the first time, put everything down.
And Mr. Dason, you mentioned percentages, ratings. Can you explain to the viewership how these are determined?
Well, we always kid around that there's a monkey in a cage up there that thinks about it, but they go from a board and they look at it and they just go, okay. They have set disability ratings. A mastectomy for a woman is 50% automatically. That's it. Asthma for a man can go up to 50%. Shin splints can be 20%. Or anywhere up to those percentages. So what they do is they look at it and go, okay, he broke his arm, but he can operate it most of the time without any pain or that. We'll give him 10% instead of 20%. Now, if he can't use his arm, we'll give him 20%. And the thing with that is disability is not the same price tag all across the board.
Now, Mr. Dason, could you explain for our viewership, does the veteran applicant have to go through some type of medical examination, like a functional capacities evaluation, to determine the extent of his disability?
The VA says no, he doesn't, unless they need more information. But if he goes up there and says, hey, this is my arm, here's my paperwork from the medic back in Nam, here's a paperwork from a doctor that saw me after I got out that said my arm's good enough, is broken, or cannot operate well enough. And he sends it forward, they might take it. They'll sit there and go, yeah, okay, looks good. It's the paperwork we need. Yes, we can issue him disability. But they can come back and say, we need more information. That happened in Nam, it's 50 years later. How bad is your arm? We want to know what has happened since then, because we might give you disability for your arm in Nam, but you might have injured it more while you're a civilian now, a veteran. So we want to know what is in there. How is your arm now?
And how do they make that determination as to the degree of aggravation from when it occurred until they apply?
Well, if they ask you to come back in, you'll go see a VA doctor, and the VA doctor will give you an exam. He'll check your arm out, he'll make you go up, down, back, right, rotate it, check the nerves in it and everything, and he'll write down what his prognosis is. That goes with the paperwork up to the VAB. And they'll look at it and go, and they have doctors there, they'll go, yes, his arm can only work 20%. That's it. He doesn't have 100% movement in his arm, it's only 20%. They look down the charts and all this and go, okay, this equals this. It's 20%, so he'll get 30% disability.
Now, when they have various body parts injured while on active duty, how are those various percentages calculated in one total?
That is the mystery we all wonder about, because each time you try to ask them for a straight answer, you won't get a straight answer. They tell them they have charts and papers that says this equals this does this. If this doesn't work at 20%, then you get that. And no one has ever seen it. But they have these charts and everything that says this equals that. And so you're basically going in fighting for the best battle you got. You'll go in there, and I tell people, don't ever tell a VA doctor, hey, I feel great today, because they'll list that. You tell them on a scale of 1, which is I'm happy as a lark, to 10, I'm dead, tell them 5. Always tell them 5.
Now, when a veteran applies for VA disability compensation, what role do you actually play?
What my role is, I am the man who puts all the paperwork together, helps him write it on what he needs to put down to show he has a disability in that, and we are the ones that ship it forward. What we are VSOs. Every DAV should have a VSO.
When you say VSO, what do you mean?
VSO is a Veteran Service Officer. We are the front line on these disability claims. And what we do is we intake. We take it all in, we put it all together, make sure that the client that we're working with agrees with it and all this, and we send it up to our offices in Albuquerque. The ones in Texas will go to Austin. But what they do in Albuquerque now is the National Service Officers. These guys have more training than anybody else, except for the VA in Washington. They'll look at it and go, okay, this correct, this correct. Nope, he needs to change this. We'll change this for him, make this sure. We dot this I, make sure he got a signature here, and they make sure it's perfect. Because right across the hallway in their building is Veterans Affairs Benefits. And that's where they take it to. They take it across the hall, hand it to them, so this paperwork is ready for you all to look at.
Now, once you're initially involved and everything is submitted, do you have subsequent communications with the applicant?
What happens a lot of times is the applicant will get a letter after about a month or 2 months that will say, we don't understand this disability you're claiming, send us more paperwork. Okay, he will come back to us as, what do I do? So did they give you a form? Yes, they gave me a blank form. We'll fill out the blank form for them and all this. Now we'll tell them, you need to get a doctor's letter, you need to get a buddy letter, you need to get an observation letter, you need to get some type of letter, whichever matches this, so we can send it forward. And he'll go out and get it, bring it back to us, we'll put it all together and we'll send it forward. So it'll be put into his records so the whole packet can go over to Veterans Affairs Benefits.
Now, would a VOS individual be helpful for veterans who work at Veterans Office Solutions?
You can be disabled and still work. The only thing is, if you're 100% disabled for individual employability, you can only work up to poverty standards. That's it. But anybody below that, they can put in for disability, they get disability, and they can still work. They're just a disabled veteran. And we have a lot of that. We have guys that will come in, and what we find out a lot is we have a guy that comes out of Vietnam or Desert Storm. He's injured, he went down to the VA, threw in for his arm, threw it in there, and they gave him disability, he gave him 20%. Okay, good enough. Now comes the time where he says, look, I just figured this out, I want to put in for everything else that's wrong with me. Okay, good. We'll put that together, and that's a subsequent application for disability. Now with that, like I said, you're at 50, you're cut in half for your disability on that. That's 50%. But what happens is they'll come back on that and go, okay, we need to know, since it's been so long, do you have an observer's letter? Did somebody actually see you get shot? Or somebody actually see you fall off the truck in that? That's the problem we get a lot, is they have to go back and find somebody that was in their unit and said, look, man, can you write me a letter saying that you saw me fall off the truck and hurt myself? And if they can, we put it together. We're working on one right now that was an airplane crash almost 50 years ago. And what the VA wanted was somebody that knew what was the full extent of his disability and put in a letter, and also somebody who saw it and put that in a letter. And he was lucky enough to find them. So we got that all together, and we're sending it forward.
Mr. Dason, once you get involved as the VOS person, how long does it take for the VA to process the claim?
On your initial first claim, if you do your first claim, the VA is down to 80 days for most claims. 80 days you'll get from when we send off your records or your application to when they make a determination of giving you disability. It's about 80 days, which is very fast. They've been working on this because it used to be a year, 2 years, 3 years. We have people up to 10 years that still haven't got what they needed, haven't got their disability now because they're still looking at it or considering it or whatever. And usually those people, I tell them, you go right to your congressman and have him inquire about it because they can do things faster than we can do. But that's good for the initial one. If you come in, do everything we ask you to do, put it all down and send it forward, you should have it in 80 days. Some will take longer, some might take a little less.
Now, the ones that require supplemental information and it's submitted, how long does that take?
It's as fast as they put the extra information in. Because usually you go, well, it's going to take a week for them. You're going to send it in, it's going to be about 2 months before they take a look at it, or less. They're going to send a letter back to you, and then you got to get everything filled out and send it back to them. So it's whatever, how fast ever you go. But they're working pretty fast. The only problem is now is the initial one is 80 days. Now, if they come back, let's say you put down 4 or 5 items that you want for disability. They'll come back after they make the recommendations with a letter that says, yes, we recommend your arm get 10%, your back 20%, but no on your asthma, no on your ankle, and no on your toes. And you go, wait a minute, these things hurt too. So they will give you up to a year to rebuttal it.
At this point, we'll take a momentary break. Thank you. Please stay tuned, and we will continue this conversation.
If we want to improve America's healthcare system, let's start by improving the health of Americans. Despite the best doctors, hospitals, and medical advancements, Americans are not as healthy as they should be. We spend too much on treatment and not enough on wellness and prevention. We need a system based on primary care. When patients have a medical home and a long-term relationship with a doctor, the result is a longer, healthier life and reduced medical costs for everyone. Let's make America a place where health is primary.
They've stormed beaches and freed countries. They've raised our flag and our hope. They've been called leathernecks. They've been called devil dogs. But above all, they're called Marines.
Thank you for staying with us. Again, our topic is VA disability compensation. Our guest is Kevin Dasing. Mr. Dasing, continue where you left off, please.
As we're talking about when you put in a second time you go to the well, as they say, and you put in, and they come back and they say, we'll give you some here, but we'll deny you on this. Or this is first time, deny you on this. You put a rebuttal in. You got a 1-year window open that you can put it in. Because what they're saying is, we agree with these things for disability, but we're not going to give you nothing for these things.
When you say a rebuttal, what do you mean, Mr. Dasing?
Well, you put a rebuttal and you write back to them saying, no, these are my disabilities also. I want them claimed as disabilities. Now, this is the harder part because they want more information. So what I do for the guys that get the paperwork back, and the women too, is I tell them, okay, we got this. Are you happy with this disability? Yes. On these things that they said no on, I need you to go to a doctor's office. I need you to go to a psychiatrist's office. I need you to go to a medical clinic or whatever, and get them to put down, this is your disability, and it is a true disability. If we get those doctor's letters, we can resubmit the whole thing back up to the VAB, and they'll look at it again.
Mr. Dasing, a thing that occurs quite often nowadays, are disabled veterans entitled to stimulus checks?
Yes, they are. They are. In fact, they're using their computer systems have direct deposits for the VA disability check. So they know exactly where they are, and they can send a disability check to them.
Mr. Dasing, you talked about the disability. Other things that you deal with, do you deal with, for example, long-term care for a disabled veteran?
Yes, we do. We are all-encompassing office. Long-term care, when you need somebody to take care of you. You know, if you're in bed all the time or most of the time, if you have to have somebody to feed you and take care of you and clothe you and all this, that's a home health care provider. We can take care of that too. And what the new thing about that is, if your wife has been doing that for you, she can get paid for that. It's just not, they used to sit there and say, you have to have a nurse come in or somebody like that to come in, and the VA will pay her or pay that nurse to take care of you on top of your disability. Now we say, if it's your wife that's been taking care of you and doing all this for you, we can get her to be a home care.
Now, is that under the category of caregiver?
It is part of caregiver. And that is one of the programs we can do for her. Also, we do death benefits. Let's say you're a veteran and all this, and you pass away. Sometimes your wife is supposed to get an insurance policy or get a disability check from you for the rest of her life. And we can investigate that and see about getting it for you if you deserve it.
And you are also involved with educational assistance, are you not?
We don't do that right now. What there's for people who don't know what education assistance is, if you get between 40 and 60% disability, you get Voc Rehab. What Voc Rehab is, the government comes and says, you can learn to be something else because maybe what you were is not, you cannot use it anymore. They'll train you to be an airplane pilot, air conditioner repairman, a bachelor's degree in something, whatever. So you can go out and get a job. That office is over on Locust, and they have an office of their own. So we don't do that part for them because there's already an office. Voc Rehab is good, but if you get past 60%, you're not going to get Voc Rehab anymore because the VA is thinking, well, you're getting close to 100%. Why should we pay any more for education if you're going to be 100% disabled?
Mr. Dasing, for our viewership where people live at various locations in the United States, where can they locate a VSO? officer?
Most VSO officers are with a DAV. So if you look in the phone book under DAV, give them a call and say, hey, do you have a VSO? Some stations don't have them. I got a chapter in Chaparral that has about 80 people. They don't have a VSO. But we have ours here, Almacia, and we also have ones out of Las Cruces, as is Silver City and Socorro and the rest of New Mexico.
What are the eligibility requirements to have a VSO officer?
Well, for the DAV, you just have to get somebody that wants to be passionate about it. Once you get him identified, you send him up for training in Albuquerque. He gets verified, gets a certificate given to him that says you're good for every year as a VSO. And then we have our national service officers from Albuquerque that come down. And they also will help you too, if needed.
And what assistance do you render for mortgage help?
We cannot do that. That is a monetary system there that we cannot work with. It has to go with VASH or with VA housing. And they have offices here too.
Are you involved in any way with VA foreclosures?
No, we're not. That is under the housing department. And so we don't do that. Our main purpose in life is to help the veteran get disability. That is the biggest problem they have, and that's what we work with. If we took care of everything else, we probably would have to have a lot more officers, but we take care of disability. One thing I want to bring up is that if you rebuttal a disability claim, your 80 days is gone, and it can be anywhere up to a year, 2 years, 3 years. The VA now is trying to get it back down to about 80 days also for that. But you got to watch it, because you can go they give you a couple of ways doing it. You go the old-fashioned way, where you put the paperwork in, and yes, maybe 2, 3 years down the line you get it. The new way is it goes from a board, and they'll get you a disposition within 70 days. But you got to abide by it. You cannot countermand or rebuttal it.
Thank you for that excellent explanation, Mr. Dasing. Again, we are Veterans Office Solutions with a hand up, not the hand out. And we train and hire veterans. We have one-stop shopping whereby all the veteran needs are under one roof. And we help veterans transition from an active duty to a civilian life. We would request that you contact your senators, your U.S. congressmen, and tell them to look into a Veterans Office Solutions Center in your state. We would appreciate your cooperation. Thank you. Good day.